Welcome to Eye on America. I'm Michelle Miller. Today we bring you stories of people striving to make others' lives better, whether it's overcoming homelessness, healthcare limitations, or hate. In Florida, we meet the Miami Marlins' new generation of female leaders breaking barriers in Major League Baseball. And in Massachusetts, we talk with New England Patriots owner Robert Kraft about his mission to fight rising antisemitism. But first, we take a look at how New York City is handling an increasing homeless population. A controversial policy is forcing people off the streets and into mental health facilities. Tony DeCopel spoke to local leaders and people who have experienced homelessness to explore how to help while keeping everyone safe.
It's getting harder and harder to ignore.
All you have to do is walk to work, drive to work, and you see homeless people all scattered all over the place.
A source of heartache or frustration for just about everyone.
It's difficult to walk on that side of the street where there's a homeless encampment.
The question is, how do we help the more than 230,000 people living on the streets in this country? And while lots of local leaders have promised a fix, none have gone quite as far as New York City Mayor Eric Adams.
You can't put a Band-Aid on a cancerous sore.
He's not only launched an effort to clear tents and other structures, he's also stepped up interventions on the subway, pushing people towards what he says are supportive and voluntary services.
There is no dignity to living on the street.
But then came a policy of involuntary removals, allowing a police officer to take into custody a person who appears to be mentally ill and displays an inability to meet basic living needs, even when no recent dangerous act has been observed.
If severe mental illness is causing someone to be unsheltered and a danger to themselves, we have a moral obligation to help them get the treatment and care they need.
How do you feel about what the mayor has done?
Sigh.
Donna Lieberman is director of the New York branch of the American Civil Liberties Union.
What the mayor is doing is throwing more police at a problem that requires a public health solution.
Adams announced his plan, which includes transport to a hospital for psychiatric evaluation, after a series of high-profile crimes.
Police say a woman was shoved onto the tracks,
including killings in New York and Los Angeles.
And that homeless man ran in and apparently started attacking them at random with a knife.
Where the suspects themselves were homeless men with a history of mental illness.
It's such a high-stakes and delicate call, the line between somebody who is free and just having a bad day and someone who is an imminent danger to themselves and others. Sometimes the first evidence is the actual act of violence.
Well, who's in the best position to make the judgment call? Is it police? Or is it the public health system? Is it medical folks? And I think it's medical folks.
While Mayor Adams declined our request for an interview, in a statement he pointed out the city is expanding capacity at medical facilities, while also boosting crisis services and behavioral health emergency teams.
Hey, I'm Tony.
How's everything?
On one of the last cold days of winter, we met Shams DeBaron in Harlem, not far from where he used to sleep.
Which spot was you?
I would be right here.
In years past, he might have been somebody flagged for removal and evaluation by Mayor Adams.
Move on this now!
Instead, he's become one of the mayor's biggest allies.
I'm not comfortable with seeing my people out here like this. I want to do something about it.
Yeah.
You know, it's easy when you never lived this experience to think it's okay. To be able to say that that box is that person's home. I don't think it's okay. And so my goal, and I know the mayor's goal, is to say, you know, we're going to do something about this. We're going to get these people help. We're going to try to stabilize their lives. And ultimately, we want to get them housing.
I'm Tony.
He wanted us to meet Cornelius Parker, better known around here as Magnificent.
You used to live right here?
Right here, right there, was born down the block.
Not long ago, Parker lost his job and then his home.
So where are you sleeping now?
I sleep right here in my car.
You sleep in your car.
Sleep in.
And what's your plan for getting back on your feet?
Well, I'm trying to find housing.
For now, like so many people here in New York and elsewhere, he chooses the streets, even when shelters are available.
The shelters are not safe. I used to work in the shelter. I've been in the shelter. You see stabbings, and it's not safe.
If you lost your vehicle and you had to
Right.
sleep on the street, you would choose the street
I would choose the street. I'd be a lot safer
than the shelter.
than the shelter.
That's how DeBaron once felt as well.
I didn't trust anybody. So I wasn't looking for services. I was comfortable where I was at. But I went from what have been mild depression to severe depression. Wow. And fortunately, I thought about my children and I said, I gotta get some help.
He got it walking himself into a mental health facility. And now he wants others to benefit from that very same sort of care, even if it means the hand of government has to get them there. Either way, there is at least agreement on help. More is needed.
Not having nearly enough housing for people who need housing with support services, that's the real shame. That's the real crime. That's what's undermining the dignity of too many New Yorkers who are vulnerable and forced to live on the streets.
We need serious federal intervention in this. Otherwise, we're gonna see a lot more lives lost to homelessness. We're going to see a lot more people dealing with trauma and mental illness and substance abuse. And it's just going to create a bad situation for all of us.
Coming up, we meet two women breaking ground in Major League Baseball. This is Eye on America. The Miami Marlins are making history with two women executives at the helm as general manager and president of business operations. Dana Jacobson takes us on the field to meet the women who are inspiring younger generations to step up to the plate.
A familiar sight in America's pastime. But at this batting practice, there's something new.
These young girls, young women who see us, I think it's really inspirational for them, and I think it shows them that sky's the limit.
Miami Marlins GM Kim Ang and President of Business Operations Caroline O'Connor shattering a glass ceiling in sports together.
Everybody wants to win. There's no doubt. That comes first. I know that. But diversity must matter to people outgoing as well.
It does. It matters. You know, it's a kind of brand that people want to be associated with.
Two women leading both the business and sports side of a major men's franchise for the first time in history.
I firmly believe the reason Kim and I are here is because we're both very hard workers, and that's our tendency.
They're part of an industry that lags others in gender representation. A 2022 report, which gave Major League Baseball a C+ for gender hiring, showed women held less than a third of league central office jobs. But overall last season saw improvements, with 33 women in major and minor league coaching roles, the most in history. Ang, now in her third season as general manager, knows representation matters.
Prior to my getting here, they had 3 women apply for analytics internship out of 300. After I was hired that next year, it went up to 30.
Would we be here if not for Title IX?
Not in my mind, not at all. But it had to happen. Things like that have to happen in order for there to be change.
The opening game of the World Series.
And when changing a game as old as baseball, there can be growing pains.
Right field.
Is it different when a woman's in charge versus when a man's in charge?
Yeah, the leader takes a lot more crap. It just takes longer, I think, for a woman as a leader to earn the respect that a lot of times for a guy is just given.
O'Connor, a multi-sport athlete in high school, came from a business background and joined the Marlins in 2017. She rose through the ranks and became just the second woman to serve as president of a major league team.
Do you ever look around at your office, though, and think what a unique opportunity this is for a business person?
Every day.
Baseball has been a part of Ang since she was a kid.
When you were playing stickball, were you the only girl out there playing with the boys?
I was, undoubtedly.
A college softball player at the University of Chicago, she got her start in the big leagues as a 21-year-old intern for the White Sox. She would go on to hold front office jobs for the Yankees and Dodgers. And after 15 years of applying for the job of general manager, the Marlins finally gave Ang her shot.
Everyone at the time of your hiring talked about how not just qualified you were, but overly qualified at that point you were for the position. I think that mattered if you were going to be the first.
No, I definitely paid my dues.
Yeah.
For sure. Should I have gotten the job earlier? Perhaps. It's just the luck of the draw sometimes, right? And that's life.
Do you feel it more because you carry it for women also?
Yeah, I definitely feel that pressure. When I read letters each day from young women or young girls, you just keep thinking that you can't fail.
It's really important to hear those stories, talk to people, have people see us in our roles as much as possible so, the little kids can see themselves here.
And ultimately, for Ang and O'Connor, it's about being part of the team.
Joe Torre was talking about you, and he said, she's just one of us. How important is that when you're working in an organization?
It's immensely important. Yeah, I think it's says a lot about being one of the team. And, you're willing to roll your sleeves up like anybody else. You're willing to get dirty like anybody else. You will fight that fight with them every day.
We continue with gender equality in sports as we turn our attention to athletes' health. A recent CBS News investigation revealed a gender gap in research for sport-related injuries. 80% of sport concussion research has focused on men, even as concussion rates for women have risen. Nikki Batiste spoke with researchers and women athletes about how these injuries can have devastating consequences.
When this University of Connecticut point guard took a tough hit in December, her concussion silenced the crowd.
A little bit of blood in her mouth, you can see.
And while the popularity of women's sports continues to rise, we spoke with female athletes who found a sports world unprepared for the unique impacts of concussions on women.
Growing up, what were your volleyball hopes and dreams?
Without a doubt, an Olympic gold medal.
Haley Hodson had a reason to dream of gold. She was the #1 college volleyball prospect in the country, eventually playing for top-ranked Stanford. Haley excelled.
It's a lot of work. I've been working really hard on adjusting to the right side.
But her Olympic dreams took a hit at practice during what her coaches called the courage drill.
Keep your face in it. I just got hit square in basically the eye socket. It really felt like target practice, and I was the target.
She was diagnosed with a concussion, but Haley says she was back on the court less than 2 weeks later against UCLA.
Yeah, so this is the UCLA hit.
That's when Haley suffered another ball to the head in almost the same spot.
She definitely had to feel that one. This ball went off my forehead and into the rafters of Pauley Pavilion. The rest of the season is frankly a blur. I was like, what is going on? I was always really healthy. It was so far beyond pain or a sadness. I was like, I'm not functional.
Research shows that reports of concussions among young female athletes have tripled in the last 20 years. Meanwhile, 80% of sports concussion research has focused on men.
It's not always the obvious instances that you see where a concussion occurs.
Brianna Scurry won Olympic gold in both Athens and Atlanta for the U.S. women's soccer team.
I think there's a perception that women have fewer concussions because women don't play as hard.
Yeah. No.
Brianna says that it was this knee directly to her temple in Philadelphia in 2010 that sent her career and her life into a tailspin.
So I had these headaches that were streaming from behind my left ear every day for 3 years.
In a documentary by Paramount Plus, a sister company of CBS News, Brianna explained how medical bills ruined her financially, so much that she had to pawn her gold medals to pay the rent.
Do you think enough is known about concussions in women's sports?
Absolutely not. Your ankle, your shoulder, your knee affects, walking or throwing or being able to comb your hair. Your brain being injured affects everything.
You are not you if your brain is changing.
Chris DeLauro is a cognitive neuroscientist at the Air Force Academy who looked at the gender gap in treating concussions.
Your daughter is more likely to get a concussion playing soccer than your son is. But if they were to get a concussion and enter the protocol, 80% of the data is from male patients who are more like your son.
His study reported that women are more likely to receive a concussion than male athletes playing the same sport.
You're not weak if you take care of yourself. It's okay to step off a court and advocate for your health.
Haley Hodson sued Stanford in 2018, saying the school masked and overlooked her brain injuries and instructed her to continue competing. The lawsuit is ongoing.
These are the girls.
Brianna eventually won her fight with the insurance companies and had surgery in her neck that delivered relief and allowed her to get her life back along with her Olympic medals.
Do you feel like the same person today that you did pre-concussion?
Actually, I think I'm better. I used to be incredibly intense. I still am, but I smile more.
Ahead, New England Patriots owner Robert Kraft on how his experiences with anti-Semitism inspired his new campaign. We close our show with a spotlight on a new initiative to combat hate. Anti-Semitic incidences reached an all-time high in 2022, up 30% from 2021. Dana Jacobson talks with New England Patriots owner Robert Kraft about how he's using teamwork to combat rising anti-Semitism.
What, if any, anti-Semitism did you face when you were growing up?
We had a few scuffles.
Like many Jews growing up in America, Robert Kraft remembers the first time he faced anti-Semitism.
It was in high school, and there was a kid. He made a comment, was laced with expletives and dirty Jew at the end. It came very close to being a physical fight, and we both were held back. But you know what? I wound up making a friend of that guy. You can make friends of your enemies by dialogue, education.
Today, Kraft is marking a new chapter in that dialogue, announcing the Stand Up to Jewish Hate campaign, for which Kraft has put up $25 million.
I saw what you've been posting.
Ads like this are part of it.
Hitler was right.
Showing how people can do their part to combat hate.
I didn't teach you that.
At the center of the campaign is a blue square, taking up roughly 2.4% of a screen, the same percentage of the U.S. population made up by Jews.
We're asking all fellow Americans to use this blue emoji on their iPhones, their iPads, and wear this as a symbol that they're partnering with us and standing up against anti-Semitism.
But Kraft knows he can't do it alone.
If anybody knows about teamwork, it is you, and this takes a team.
It takes, and you know what? You don't win unless everyone's pitching in. And yeah, any team sport, any business, anything you want to win at, you need people from all places and all to pitch in and put team first.
As the owner of a storied football team, Kraft has made some influential friends.
I've called on them, and today, with the breaking of our campaign, you'll see we have a lot of influencers,
Such as?
Well, I
mean, I know this guy that used to play quarterback that
well, check
may have
it
helped
out.
with some of those trophies back there.
Check it out. You'll see. You'll see. But we also have a lot of good people who will recognize that this is something they want to partner with.
Why do you need it to be more than just the Jewish population?
Because we are so small. I think, we did some research and it showed that over 50% of Americans believe that we can handle this problem on our own, and we know we can't.
The campaign springs from Kraft's Foundation to Combat Anti-Semitism, which he created after anti-Semitic rhetoric attack in Charlottesville, Virginia in 2017, and the deadly 2018 attack on the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh. A big part of the foundation's focus, anti-Semitism found online and on social media. Those incidents are tracked in a command center built in Gillette Stadium, steps away from Kraft's office.
Why did you want this so close?
Because I knew I wanted to have access and be hands-on and check what they're doing.
What they're doing is monitoring conversations across 300 million data sources. They can see in real time spikes in anti-Semitic rhetoric and share information with other organizations fighting hate.
It's going on constantly, and there's no let-up. And it makes me sad, actually. This is the United States of America. I mean, it shouldn't happen here.
And that's the goal behind the foundation and the Stand Up to Jewish Hate campaign, to stop it.
Why are you the right person to do this?
I don't know that I'm the right person. I think it's important to show people that you're proud of your heritage, and some people don't know I'm of Jewish heritage. Well, I'm not ashamed to tell them that, and I'm proud of it.
For more stories like these and live coverage of breaking news 24/7, stream us right here on CBS News. I'm Michelle Miller. Thank you for watching Eye on America.